Hi Archers! Patch 1.3.6 is slowly rolling out with the major focus being the new abilities. This video is going to be a comparison of the new abilities with the relevant old abilities and a bit of a discussion. My goal here is to help you figure out if it's worth picking up for you. My name is Teeds. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe and click the bell for more Archero videos. With this patch, Archero has introduced two new ability families, the first one being the Plus family. Here we have Attack Plus, HP Plus, Crit Plus, and Speed Plus. The Plus family are stacking abilities, where every time you beat a level without taking damage, the stats of the ability in use increases. A few things you should know before we begin. These Plus abilities are not infinite. It is a little misleading with the description as it is described as an ability that will increase as long as you clear levels without taking damage. They do cap at their own individual numbers, and the reasoning for the cap could just be a balancing issue, as maybe they felt it might be a little too OP if it were infinite. Otherwise, another reasoning for this could be that it's because these abilities are aimed to help players to have a little bit of a boost instead. These abilities seem to only pop up in the beginning of your run. So if you want one of these abilities, you can only pick this up as your first ability. I find that this is good news for later RNG ability pools. This means these four abilities do not contribute to making multi-shot, rage, etc. harder to get. However, if you were going to get them at the start of your game, then this is where they come in, and that's the con. If you take damage with any of these abilities, you do not have to start over or restack them. It will just continue where you left off. Plus abilities do not stack when passing through the Angel level. First, let's talk about Attack Plus. So I've tested these two weapons with the bow, which has a 100% damage modifier, and the scythe, which has a 145% damage modifier. Each time I cleared a level without taking damage, my damage would increase by 2.25% each time. The number can be slightly different at times due to how Archero rounds up numbers within the game, however it is 2.25%. Attack Plus stacks to a maximum of 18 times. In comparison to Major Attack Boost grants you 30% damage each pickup. Attack Plus grants you a maximum percentage of 40.5%. This is 10.5% more base damage than Attack Boost and 25% more in comparison. To just surpass Major Attack Boost, you will need to clear 14 levels without taking damage. Then we have HP Plus. HP Plus increases by 2.2% each time you clear a level without taking damage and stacks to a maximum of 16 times. HP Boost grants a 20% maximum health increase, so with that, HP Plus grants you a maximum percentage of 35%. To just surpass HP Boost, you'll need to clear 10 levels without taking damage. Next is Crit Plus. This ability is insane. Crit Plus increases your crit chance and stacks to a maximum of 18 times. I ran a small test with 530 attacks, and within 530 attacks, I critted 237 times. This means from my small test, Crit Plus will grant you roughly 1.43% per level. A disclaimer though, my sample is pretty small and I unfortunately ran out of energy. It was just super hard to get this ability to pop up in the first place. This conclusion is based on my numbers, and from these numbers, this means Crit Plus is pretty strong. I was not running any other crit items. I had 4% crit from the universal hero stats and 15% crit based chance from the weapons. I was using a level 20 Archero for this test. From these numbers, this means you'll get roughly a total of 26% crit chance from Crit Plus if you are able to max stack it. This item has a very strong synergy with Helix due to his rage passive. As Helix's health goes down, his crit damage goes up, and with this item, his crit chance will also go up pretty dramatically. Epic bows have increased crit damage. With this item stacked, it is also extremely strong, and Crit Major also has a 10% crit chance, but the 40% crit damage will synergize extremely well with the crit rate from Crit Plus, meaning more crits and more crit damage. I will revisit the crit build in a future video once I get the exact numbers of Crit Plus, but at the moment, just from my testing, this means that crit build is even more powerful and gives a pretty big buff to the bow and Helix individually. I haven't even included the other items that contribute to crit damage and chance, so the games that I tested this in would have been even crazier had I equipped epic wolf rings and a bracelet. The problem with crit chance is that sometimes you can just luck out or be very unlucky. I will be revisiting this topic in a future video once I ran more tests to determine the value, but the fact that I can reach such a strong potential already without any other crit chance items or crit damage items was pretty baffling. Does this mean you should switch to Helix on the bow, or if I'm going to switch Helix to the bow? While it does seem to be stronger now, I will still be using Meowgic and Scythe, Spear, or Staff. Crit Plus still applies to all other weapons and heroes, which means that they can also have a lot of damage and a lot of crit chance. The difference with Helix, without doing the exact numbers, is that he can just reach a higher potential at such a low health. I personally am not a fan of proccing at low health, which is why I personally don't use Helix. It's just not my preferred playstyle. This does not mean this weapon or Helix is the strongest of all. I still have to test its ability on other weapons and heroes, but it does make them stronger than before, and the bow's epic stat and Helix's rage definitely synergizes better with Crit Plus. The last plus item we have is the Speed Plus item, and that one is really hard to calculate as I could only go frame by frame and it would take a very long time. I did not calculate this one, but if you value speed, maybe it's something you'd be interested in. However, if you're a starter stepper, I recommend not picking this ability up. So this is my conclusion. I would say tier-wise, the weakest being Speed Aura, in third place, HP Plus, in second place, Attack Plus, and in first place, Crit Plus. It also depends on what you value in your gameplays, but personally, this is what I would say to be the strongest to weakest. Do remember that these abilities are risky pickups. If you know that you can beat many levels without taking damage, then these abilities will benefit you a lot, but if you struggle on the early levels, then I would suggest skipping these abilities. To make these abilities worth it, you have to be able to pass levels without taking damage. I suggest to never pick these abilities up if it is a wave or boss chapter. Boss and wave chapters have limited levels and are also much harder to not take any damage. The huge con about these abilities is that you have less chance to pick up a high tier ability in the beginning of your run. This means chapters 3, 6, 7, 10, and 14 have a higher chance of grabbing a very low tier ability that's not going to be much use to them. And if you're not into risking or stacking an ability in general, then these new additions would be useless to you as well. If you're ever in a situation where you have to choose between Crit Plus or Crit Major, for example, Crit Plus gives you higher crit chance potential if you can reach the stacks, and Crit Major gives you just consistency and no pressure. If you do pick up Crit Plus, do remember that there is still a possibility to grab Crit Major in the future from a RNG pool if you're really lucky, or from the devil. Then we have the Aura family. So the Aura family is very similar to Invincibility. We have Attack Speed Aura, Crit Aura, and HP Gain Aura. These auras will be activated for 2 seconds. It will take 8 seconds from the time it ends before it activates again. There will be a small circle under you so you'll know when it's activated. I don't have the numbers for any of these abilities, but I would say they are pretty strong. The attack speed is insanely fast when activated, and your crit rate is incredibly high when also activated. I think at the moment HP Gain Aura may be glitched as it hasn't popped up for me at all through my gameplays, but that might be fixed before the update is rolled out to everyone. The benefit of these abilities is that during the aura of speed and crit, you will be able to do tons of damage in the 2-second time frame. With HP Gain Aura, I suspect that you will gain a bit of HP for that 2-second time frame, and then it will return to normal. So the benefits of this ability is that in 2 seconds, you may be able to take a hit that would have otherwise killed you. The cons of Speed and Crit Aura is that you may not make use of these auras. If you are on a projectile heavy level or chapter, then it may be hard to fit in the 2-second aura. Like if you were against melee enemies and you're constantly running away from them, then it is hard to push in that 2 seconds. This is case by case, every situation is different, but this is something that I find to be a con. If you had to choose between them and its counterparts, the auras give you a huge burst, and the counterparts like HP boost, attack speed boost, and crit major gives you consistency. It's good to note that crit aura only grants you increased high crit rate chance and not damage. In conclusion with the aura family versus its counterparts, all of these abilities are personal playstyle choice. If you value consistency, go for HP boost, attack speed boost, or crit major. If you want a huge boost for 2 seconds once in a while, then go for the aura abilities. Faster weapons may benefit from the crit and speed aura over slower weapons. Bad news for me since I'm a Scythe user. I would say that crit aura is the strongest of the auras, and with the speed aura and HP gain aura, I guess it just depends on your current situation. The last abilities we have is Dark Touch and Obsidian Circle. They both place a 1-second time bomb on the target which will deal AoE damage. However, I will only talk about the Dark Touch numbers. I'm not a huge fan of circle abilities unless I am playing for fun, and you can apply the conclusion of Dark Touch to Obsidian Circle anyway. Dark Touch is a new addition to the Elemental Arrow family. This 1-second time bomb deals 90% of your base damage, not your weapon damage. Attack boost also applies to the base value of the shadow damage. There is no instant damage to the target, you will have to wait 1 second, and any mobs nearby that target will also take the full damage as well. The con of this ability is that you may kill the target before it explodes, which means it will make it useless in some cases. But there are some pros. Boss-wise, I find this ability stronger than all the other elemental arrows. You're most likely not going to kill a boss instantly, and the damage from Dark Shadow is stronger than the other elemental arrows, and it also scales. I find that boss-wise, this ability is the way to go unless you just value freeze. This ability is also very strong against certain mobs, so like bees, melee mobs like skeletons, and so on. This ability could work really well in the daily challenge event, Up Close Dangers. This ability does pretty well with Ricochet, as Dark Touch will apply the bomb on all targets hit, so you could get a lot of damage in crowd situations and wave chapters. In comparison to the other arrows, Bolt, Freeze, Poison Touch, and Blaze, they all have their uses, so it depends on the situation you're in. Bolt does scale, and it is nicely paired up with Ricochet, but it doesn't deal any initial damage and it will only proc if enemies are nearby. For Freeze, it can cancel out animations, but this depends on your playstyle. For Poison Touch, does not scale, the damage always stays the same. Personally, I am not a fan of Poison Touch, but it works well if you're playing safe. Blaze does not scale, the damage stays the same. Very quick DPS, that is a pro of Blaze over Dark Shadow, which takes 1 second to proc. All of them work very well with Ricochet, but personally, I think Dark Shadow is my new favorite elemental ability. I don't really like Obsidian Circle. I actually wish they replace Obsidian Circle with a Sword Strike version of Dark Shadow. I think that would be a lot better. Now that we have more information instead of vague descriptions, what do you archers think about the new abilities? It still sucks that the pool of abilities is now bigger. I personally hope they will focus on improving our current abilities. I really think they should make some sort of synergy with the older abilities like elemental ability bonuses and things like that. And that is all for today's video. I hope it's helped you in some way and prepare you for the 1.3.6 update. It's music/comments time. Thank you, Sophia. I hope I'm saying that right. Honestly, I was having a pretty bad day, but your comment honestly made me feel a lot better. Hey Pasundu, a tail. I was really hoping that. I really hope they add some new effects for the earlier rarities. No, I am Groot. You're the best. Thank you for commenting on so many of my videos. I appreciate it so much. Feel free to subscribe and click the bell for more Archero videos. Any likes would be super appreciated, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, thank you archers for commenting, liking and supporting my videos. I hope to see you again for the next one. Bye!